Share. Hi, everyone. This is Hey Stella podcast with Mihaela M. And as I keep saying every time, I am going to try to apply the acting tools and analysis that acting provides for actors to non-actors. I will try to stay within the present of what's happening every week and what the event of that week is. And I couldn't help but watch the hearings about the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. I haven't really paid much attention to the other sessions, but yesterday I was watching it, and I have to tell you, I was very moved by the witnesses who were interviewed, who were being deposed. Some of the witnesses had presented the videos that they had been interviewed on before by the committee, and then there were some live interviews of others. I found this fourth, I believe, session of the hearings to be the most moving, the most personal, and the most revelatory of the importance of telling a story that's specific, no matter the environment, will move people, will move audiences. So I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are about why these amazing patriots who said yes to coming and revealing their personal stories about how they feel of what is happening in the United States of America, how they feel about the invasion on the Capitol, how they feel about themselves as people when they're being harassed by the ex-president Trump without having any facts. The connection, again, between the human story and the storytellers, the actors who tell character stories, are very similar. And the ingredients and the recipe to how people are going to be moved is pretty much the same, no matter the environment, no matter you're doing this on stage, no matter you're doing this in a personal situation, no matter you're doing this in a political situation.
Will show that what happened to Mike Pence wasn't an isolated part of Donald Trump's scheme to overturn the election. In fact, pressuring public servants into betraying their oaths was a fundamental part of the playbook.
When state elections officials refused to stop the count, Donald Trump and his campaign tried to put pressure on them. When state executive officials refused to certify him the winner of states he lost, he applied more pressure. What was it like to compete with a president who had the biggest bully pulpit in the world to push out these false claims?
For lack of a better word, it was frustrating. But oftentimes I felt our information was getting out, that there was a reticence of people who needed to believe it because the President of the United States, whom many looked up to and respected, was telling them it wasn't true, despite the facts. And I have characterized at one point, it was kind of like a shovel trying to empty the ocean.
Okay, there was so much to unpack. There was so much to break down in that first beginning beat. And these are just the highlights from the fourth session of the hearings. Both of the gentlemen that just spoke from the committee, they are talking about the ex-president, Donald Trump, and how he wanted to make his base believe a lie. Unsatisfied with the outcome of the election when Joe Biden won, because he comes from the reality show background, he knew that people are so wanting to believe anything that is going to give them something to hold on, no matter if that is the truth. He knew his playbook had been so well rehearsed during the entire time that he was a reality star, and then he took that on into the White House. He took that on to play it in front of honest, sincere Americans. His playbook was working. His understanding of his audiences as a reality star and as the president of the United States. His understanding of those people in the audience, due to his shows that he had done before, made them understand that he can take a lie if you tell it well enough and if you tell it many times. He knew that it was going to penetrate through the minds and the hearts of those people watching and listening to him, his audiences. Unlike Amber in the trial with Johnny Depp, the one that Johnny Depp won, yes, I'm going to say this again, and her interview that she gave on Dateline, she has the audience afraid of her. She's a worse actress than Donald Trump is a reality star. She has less understanding, even though she calls herself an actress, and other people have called her performance to be the performance of a lifetime on the stand during the trial. She has so much less understanding of her audience and what sincerity and vulnerability and personal sharing of one's story is than even Donald Trump. I mean, that's what a bad actress she is, because Donald Trump has not ever said about himself that he's an actor. He is a reality star. He had his show that was doing really well in the first few seasons. I forgot the name of it. It doesn't even matter. I had no idea that I was going to make the comparison between Trump and Amber Heard, but there you have it. He knows how to push the button in order to reach his audiences. He knows how to tap into the people's hearts and souls, because he will convey stories that people want to hear, and he will make people believe that he's actually identifying himself with their stories, which is not even 1% the truth. He's so far away from the truth, but because he's saying it and he's been doing it with such conviction, and because he's had practice at lying truthfully, people adore him, and his base believe anything he says, no matter what it is. Bleach to make the coronavirus disappear, light and putting the light into your body to make the coronavirus disappear. All of the things anybody else, if they would have said them, I think that person would have been taken into a doctor's office to have him or her checked to make sure that he or she is okay. Can you believe that he became the president of the United States due to his understanding of what the acting tools provide, being that he came from the background of a reality star and had a successful show? It's unbelievable. And the Democrats are still not grasping. They're not dealing with that for the next elections and for the next events that are going to take place in political future of the United States of America. They're still playing by some book that has been long thrown out. In politics, entertainment has become such a part of everything that's happening nowadays in every field. And the Democrats have yet to understand that. Well, I'll give them a little bit of credit because, like I said, this hearing where I'm going to continue to play the highlights from what I understand, they hired a producer, somebody who has an understanding of a story, of what it is to tell a story, to affect people and to make people understand the story, to be more impactful from the perspective of humanity and how it impacts all of us if democracy is not going to be cherished and held up high where it should be. So yeah, the storytelling was there a little bit more than the other events that the Democrats have done in prior situations.
What was it like to compete with a president who had the biggest bully pulpit in the world to push out these false claims?
For lack of a better word, it was frustrating. But oftentimes I felt our information was getting out, but that there was a reticence of people who needed to believe it because the President of the United States, whom many looked up to and respected, was telling them it wasn't true, despite the facts. And I characterized at one point, it was kind of like a shovel trying to empty the ocean.
Okay, Adam Schiff, who asked the question about what was it like to feel this pressure and to know that the president, who has the highest of the powers in the world, was pushing these false claims. That's a good question. The gentleman answered what it was like, because I can only understand just from a point of view of my understanding of our humanity. I have to deal with somebody that I work for in my lifetime, somebody who's of higher position than I am, and having pressure from them to do things that you know in your heart are against that what you believe in, at a, of course, much smaller scale than what they're talking about. They're talking about democracy. They're talking about maintaining and continuing to have democracy in the United States of America. It's the country where everybody else is looking up to as an example, as a miracle, as somebody said, that one of the president calls it, to what it's like to have freedom with human rights in a country like the United States of America, and to have this happen, to have the higher position in the land, that of the president of the United States, push false accusations, people in different positions, some of them ordinary, and I mean that in the nicest way, because they're ordinary in extraordinary ways, because you can also be an extraordinary, or you consider yourself to be an extraordinary person because you have a high position and you feel like you're on top of everything, and can be just an ordinary human being. So ordinary and extraordinary for me are so depending on what you are as character in your life, in your personal life, and as characters go when reading a script. You have to find if they're extraordinary or if they're ordinary. That's very specific. So that can be placed on people depending on their different variations of situations and events. So he was asking about what it was like to feel that pressure. And one of the things that I remember the most from what he said right now was that it felt like you were trying to push back against so much power that's coming. I mean, if you were to imagine the physical power as an actor, you would imagine what would it be like to fight against something that's physically coming to you with so much power. So imagine you have something that is so much bigger than what you are, which is an injustice, unfair game to start with. And you have that like a bulldozer push you, and you're trying to fight back. You're trying to fight back because what you believe in is maintaining your oath of office, or maintaining your integrity as a human being, maintaining your reputation, your character, in pushing back the lies, no matter that they come from such a high position. But you have to push. And it's so hard. The best way that he explained it was, it's as if you're trying to shovel the water to empty the ocean, to paraphrase what he said. The one thing that they're not saying and they're not talking about is, how was it that I'm watching all these shows on television, all the political shows, nobody's talking about how he came to get to the position where he was able to convince so many people of those lies. Why isn't anybody else able to do that? How is he able to do that? What does he have that the other politicians do not have? I know it's something that you have to ask, but at the same time, it's something you don't want to go to. You might not want to go to because you don't want to say he has something on top than what the other politicians who are not convincing people. You have to look at the situation. You have to do the analysis the same way that an actor, or myself, an acting coach, would have to do on a character in a play. You have to look at what are those elements in the personality. What are the knowledges that this character, in this case, that Trump has, to make so many millions of people to vote for him? What are they? You can't just say, well, he doesn't have integrity. He has no character. Okay, that's all true. But then what does he have? Because he has something. You may say he's lacking character. You may say he's lacking integrity, but what does he have? Focus on what he has, because that what he has is what's convincing those millions of people to believe in the truth that he's spewing out, not truth, but falsehoods. what does he have? He has the capacity, he has the ability and understanding to know how to use the tools given to him in the entertainment business that he was part of for so long. He was always an entertainer. If you look back to even from the before he did the show, the reality show, he knew. They're saying that he used to call places up and he used to pretend that he was a different character, Baron something. He was playing two characters. He was playing himself as Donald Trump, and then he was playing this other character, Baron, to convince people and to get to the people, to the newspapers, to the TV shows, to kind of introduce Donald Trump as another person when he was actually lying about himself by saying that he was somebody else, to try to make Donald Trump, to make himself, see how I'm already convinced, to try to make himself a public figure. He did it. He did it. But again, these are the tools that actors have to use. These are the tools that actors have to train themselves with, techniques that they have to rehearse and they have to keep on doing to master them. So you may say anything bad that you want to say about him, but focus on all of the things that he knows and he has at his disposal to be able to convince so many good, honest, working people that what he's saying is the truth, even though there are facts, there are concrete facts that prove that he's wrong. They still believe him. And they're willing to give their lives. They're willing to actually give their lives and go against who they are and what they believe in. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous. So by not paying attention to that, you're just not doing yourselves a service. All the rest of the politicians who are going to run, and I don't know if he's going to run again or not, but even if he doesn't, even if he does, you still should inform yourself and you still should be more of an observer and watch what's working and what's not working in today's world. It's not the same political analysis, or it's not the same techniques or whatever you may want to call them that will captivate audiences and will captivate voters. That's not what it is. People nowadays are completely tuned into YouTube, tuned into all the platforms on social media, because I'll tell you, they have a lot of great people on the social media platforms such as YouTube who are actually giving much more of a truthful, concrete understanding of what's happening in the world. I am becoming more aware of it as I'm trying to grow my channel. And I have to tell you, there's so much more honesty and there's so much more fairness on some of the YouTube channels than I see sometimes on the main media, on the known TV channels, that we all know, honestly. So that's why you have to grow with what's happening. You have to adapt to what's happening. So yeah, that was the question that I think Adam Schiff, I don't know his name. See, even to me, because Trump calls him Shifty Schiff. Now I don't know what his real last name is, Adam Schiff. It penetrates your brain when somebody repeats the same thing over and over. There's the repetition exercise as acting goes. Repetition exercise is something that an actor will do when he doesn't know what the line is about and he wants to make it specific and real for himself or herself. Then you do the repetition, you repeat the same line to the other person, and then the other person will acknowledge and repeat the line. This is a Meisner technique. That other person will repeat the line, changing the pronoun. So for example, I'm saying, I'm looking at myself and I'm moving my hand a lot. If there was another person on the other side, the person would say, you're looking at yourself and you're moving your hand a lot. And they can continue with the next observation that they see because you are nervous. So that puts you in the present moment. So using the repetition to the audience responding to what he's saying, that's what he did. He was saying so many of the things. The election was stolen. Yes, the election was taken from us. We can't let that happen. Yes, we can't let that happen. So this exchange between him and his people that were listening to him before they went into the Capitol, they had that repetition back and forth. Again, I don't know if he knows, how much he's using all of these tools used by entertainers and most specifically by actors. Some people are just have an instinctual understanding of them. I'm not saying that he was taking acting classes, that Trump was taking acting classes, but I think he just realized what was working when he was doing his impersonation of himself, pretending to be somebody else. And then the repetition exercise with his followers, with his people that were listening to him, who then followed him, because you're telling someone in a moment to do something. It doesn't matter that it's not the truth. By saying it over and over again and waiting for them to respond to you, you're giving them the impression that you care about what they're saying. You're looking at them, you're hearing them. You're not just listening, you're hearing them. So they feel validated, they feel justified, no matter what they're going to do next, no matter that it's going to be a criminal act or it's going to be a minor offense. But in the moment, you get them so excited that they're going to go for it. Why doesn't anybody say that?
Mr. Secretary, is there any way that you could have lawfully changed the result in the state of Georgia and somehow explained it away as a recalculation?
No, the numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations and we investigated every single one of them. I've been traveling through the state of Georgia for a year now, and simply put, in a nutshell, what happened in the fall of 2020 is that 28,000 Georgians skipped the presidential race, and yet they voted down ballot in other races. And the Republican congressman ended up getting 33,000 more votes than President Trump. And that's why President Trump came up short.
Numbers are numbers, numbers don't lie. Well, numbers and numbers don't lie. There's just such a abstract, it's such an abstract thing when you really think about it, because people don't depend on numbers to give them emotions. People don't depend on factual, distant stories that you tell them, that anybody tells them. What the people rely on to make them feel that they are worthy, to make them feel that they are living, that they are viscerally living and they're being paid attention to, are not numbers. They are stories, no matter that they're fake, no matter that they're lies, but they're stories that are being told and they're being expressed in a way that they will understand to be similar to their stories. So they can identify to the person who is telling the story. To have somebody like Trump on television for so many years during the presidency, and even before, because he was on the show, people have the impression that they know that person because he's in everybody's house, on their TV set, on their computers. So they have the impression that his personal lies, but told really well in a way that they sound to be true and believable because of the way that he knows how to portray himself to tell them. You think you know the person, you have him in your house every other week when you watch the show. He reveals his vulnerabilities, he reveals his flaws. The fact that he was admitting to all of the bad things that he was doing by saying, well, so this is, I did that. So I spoke to this guy and I was very vulgar in the way that I was talking about this woman when he was caught right before he was elected president, when he was caught talking about this woman. And he was with this other guy. They were talking about, oh, did you see her private? And oh, yeah, everybody lets me see their privates because I'm a big star. And so everybody, all the Democrats thought that was going to be the end of his career. He just said it was locker room talk. It was locker room talk. It was just locker room talk. And I keep going to the trial of, Johnny Depp. There's no comparison between, I'm not doing any comparison between Johnny Depp and this guy because I don't even want to say his name in the same sentence, but that's what Johnny Depp also did because he's a fantastic, amazing actor. Again, nothing to do with the ex-president, but he revealed his flaws. He said, yes, I drink. So you caught me sleeping and being in positions that were vulnerable, where I have ice cream that's falling off of me because I fell asleep while I was holding ice cream. And everybody can relate to something that was embarrassing or shameful in their lives. So they see him as a human being instead of watching somebody like Amber Heard, who pretended that she had no faults and she had the most perfect character. That means that you have no character. If you have the most perfect character, that's already a lie, and you have no character. Trump, on the other hand, knows how to reveal the flaws and his craziness. He reveals it before the other people can actually attack him. So if you reveal it, if I go on stage in front of people and I say, guess what? I know I gained 20 kilograms. I have nothing against people who are a little bit on the curvy side, but for me, it doesn't make me feel good. So I feel really, I don't feel like myself, and I feel like I'm hiding, and I feel like I'm not good enough. So I just want to let everybody know I'm on stage and I'm telling the audience that I know I gain weight. No matter what comes after that, if anybody from the audience is going to call me to say, you've gained weight, oh my God, what did you do? Like, are you not doing anything to not gain the weight? It doesn't bother me as much that they would refer to what I just talked about, because I had the power. I took the story, I took my thought, I took the inner process, the inner thought that was bothering me, and I revealed it before the other people were going to do it. By me revealing it first, I'm in the power of it. I'm holding it up into the light. Doesn't matter what you think of it, but this is what it is, bad or good. The audience is not going to take my story away. The audience is not going to take that thing that I feel ashamed about anymore, because I already made it public. I decided to share it. I'm the owner of it. So he does that, he does that. It's like speaking out. What do you feel like right now in the moment if you're doing a scene? And that goes for a character, if you're playing a character. If you're in a scene and you're on stage and you have to say the same line, which is gain weight, who maybe has not gone through the same thing that the actress, has gone through, may not know how to say the line because she never gained the weight, and they had to use some sort of a thing around their waist to make her look like she's curvier. So she doesn't know what the process is of gaining weight, but she has to say the same things. So to her, the line is not going to have the same meaning. So it's not coming from a place of understanding. So then what the acting coach would say to that actor or actress would be, what other line can you say that might not have anything to do with gain weight, but it has to do with something else that you were feeling you were not taking care of yourself? And that actress might say, I love myself, I haven't worked out, and it makes me feel like I don't value myself. When she goes back to saying the line, she will say the line that's written for the character, which is, I've gained 20 kilograms. The subtext for her is going to be, because I haven't done the workout that I usually do, I haven't kept up with giving myself the treatment that I need to. So do you guys understand what I'm saying? There's so much of a link between personal life, becoming aware. As an actor, you have to become so much more of a human being, in the sense of you have to dissect every inch of who you are, mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, sexually, during the entire life. That is the process of actors. That's why it's such a remarkable profession, and when done greatly by only a few great actors, because it's really difficult to do, I appreciate it so much. At the same time, I get really upset because people don't understand that process. They think that actors are liars. They think that actors are amazing pretenders. They think that actors are confident because they have to be in front of the public. They think all of the things that actors are not. It's everything else that they have to be, and not those things that I mentioned, the public believes. Everything else. The shyness of actors I think majority of great actors are shy, and that's what makes them great actors. Because if you would not be shy, you wouldn't have any kind of a struggle with yourself, inner struggle, which is that I'm a shy person. I have no confidence in how this is going to be, but I'm going to try to do my best. So I'm overcoming my fears, and I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do what's necessary to try to be the best that I can. It's always to try to be the best, to try to be the best. Who in any other profession is thinking about that? I don't know. Some people are who are, very aware of their growth as humans, and they want to be learning, and there's a lot of those. But I'm saying, as professions go, I don't think there's professions that require of people. Well, now they are starting to, that's what I'm saying. But before, I think professions were not requiring of people to become more understanding of their humanity. But now I think they are requiring that, not just in acting. So I'm saying a lot in this episode. Okay, this moment was so beautiful. This is such an example. Being caught by emotions that rise up in the moment, as this gentleman surprised himself. It's just beautiful. If you can tap into that part of the self that this gentleman was able to, without him even knowing to do that, because he is such a believer in this country and what this country stands for and what his duty is, it's just breathtaking. This is my favorite moment. Others coming, but
You are asking me to do something against my oath, and I will not break my oath.
You will hear what they experienced when the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States, sought to cling to power after being voted out of office by the American people. The system held, but barely. And the system held because people of courage, Republicans and Democrats, like the witnesses you will hear today, put their oath to the country and Constitution above any other consideration. They did their jobs, as we must do ours.
can you imagine if this speech was being made by somebody else than in connection to Trump? Can you imagine if somebody did the same thing in another country, which they are doing? Other leaders in other countries are doing the same thing that Trump and his group, his mafia group, did this. That is so similar to the countries where people have no idea what it is to be a free human with free human rights. This is happening here. This is preaching to the choir, the hearings, because of course we're going to watch the ones who understand the truth from fiction lie that Trump was sharing with everyone that the election was his. Truth, it was not so. If it weren't for these amazing people who are coming here today to testify, no, extraordinary human beings and patriots, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, it was so close from having something so consequential and so drastic happen that I don't think people are aware of that. I don't think people are aware of it because they haven't lived that. They haven't lived in a communist regime to understand what it's like and how easy it is for somebody in power, when he has other people around, to be able to take that and run with it, supported by lies. It's so easy. I just never thought that we would have these kinds of hearings happening here due to an insurrection that happened on January 6th in America.
Speaker Bowers, thank you for being with us today. Before we begin with the questions that I had prepared for you, I wanted to ask you about a statement that former President Trump issued, which I received just prior to the hearing. Have you had a chance to review that statement?
My counsel called from Arizona and read it to me. Yes, sir.
In that statement, I won't read it in its entirety. Former President Trump begins by calling you a rhino Republican in name only. He then references a conversation in November 2020, in which he claims that you told him that the election was rigged and that he had won Arizona. To quote the former president, during the conversation, he told me the election was rigged and that I won Arizona, unquote. Did you have such a conversation with the president?
I did have a conversation with the president. That certainly isn't it, but there were parts of it that are true, but there are parts that are not, sir.
And the part that I read you, is that false?
Anywhere, anyone, anytime has said that I said the election was rigged, that would not be true.
And when the former president in his statement today claimed that you told him that he won Arizona, is that also false?
That is also false.
Mr. Bowers, I understand that after the election, and I don't know whether this is the conversation the former president is referring to, but after the election, you received a phone call from President Trump and Rudy Giuliani in which they discussed the result of the presidential election in Arizona. If you would, tell us about that call.
I just want to make a point about looking at this gentleman. Look at this gentleman. Look at his facial expression. Look at how specific he is in the way that he admits the truth, which is he was a supporter of Trump. He wanted Trump to win his second term as a president. That already is making him an honest person because he's not denying the fact that he is all those things. That's what his ideology is. Conservative Republican, he wanted Trump to win second term. And then he goes into entering, if it was true, what Trump had just said, because Trump, knowing that he was going to be here testifying, of course, he had to have the first. Do you remember what I said about you have to have the first word? If you're the first one to get your word in, then the audience is more accepting of you, no matter if you're telling a lie, than the person who comes second. Unless the person who comes second, which is this amazing gentleman, who's such a transparent, he has such a transparent being of everything that he's feeling, of everything that he's going through. You can even see that he's tormented. He's already so saddened by the situation that he's in. How can you not believe this person? This person cannot get away with lying. You can see right through. You can see right through. The same way that you could see with Amber that she was lying the whole time. With this gentleman, you can see that he's telling the truth the whole time. That's the difference.
Did you ever receive from him
No.
that evidence either during the call, after the call, or to this day?
Never.
He's so honest in the response. Never. He's
What
not.
was the ask during this call?
One other thing that I'm watching with this gentleman who's like such an amazing example of telling what truth telling is, that vibrates through his entire body. He doesn't have to come up with an answer that's going to detail everything. If you're going to detail everything in such a way that is narration to the people that you're talking to, you're considering them to be stupid. If you know who you are as a person, if you know that you did nothing wrong as he does, if you know that what you are doing right here under oath, all he had to say is never to all those questions that Adam Schiff had. Never. No. Did he provide you with the facts of the dead people in the suitcases with false votes and zombies that were coming out from the graves to vote for Joe Biden? Did he ever provide any proof of that? Never. That's all he says. Look at his emotion. His eyes are filled with tears. He's not trying to cry. He's not trying to do any of that. And then to go to Rudy Giuliani, oh my God, because he was brought into this and I forgot about him. What is there to say about that man? What happened to the mayor of New York? That was like such a celebrated man when the whole Twin Towers attack happened. And it was one of the darkest days in the world. What happened to that man? He became greedy for power and attention. Probably he wasn't getting attention anymore. He wanted that attention that he had being a mayor. Now he was just craving for attention. People want attention. Who doesn't? We all do. But what are the risks that you are ready to take? And what are the consequences that you are willing to take those risks for? History of the American democracy that's being looked upon as a miracle. Are you willing to give that up? Scary, scary, scary.
And I said, look, you are asking me to do something that is counter to my oath when I swore to the Constitution to uphold it And I also swore to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona. And this is totally foreign as an idea or a theory to me. And I would never do anything of such magnitude without deep consultation with qualified attorneys. And I said, I've got some good attorneys and I'm going to give you their names. But you were asking me to do something against my oath, and I will not break my oath. And I think that was up to that point.
Amazing, this gentleman, the way that he's just being so vulnerable in the description of what was happening and how he had to struggle with having this pressure, which meant that by going against these powerful people, he was giving up so much of himself and his career maybe, and having his name be dragged into the mud by Trump. And he's still here standing, but you can see he's standing, sitting, standing strong in the way that he's unafraid. Very rare courage seen in these witnesses.
Why did you feel, either in the absence of that evidence or with it, what they were asking you to do would violate your oath to the Constitution?
First of all, when the people, and in Arizona, I believe some 40 plus years earlier, the legislature had established the manner of electing our officials or the electors for the presidential race. Once it was given to the people, as in Bush v. Gore, illustrated by the Supreme Court, it becomes a fundamental right of the people. So as far as I was concerned, for someone to ask me in the, I would call it a paucity, there was no evidence being presented of any strength. Evidence can be hearsay evidence, it's still evidence, but it's still hearsay. But strong judicial quality evidence, anything that would say to me, you have a doubt, deny your oath. I will not do that. And on more than one occasion throughout all this, that has been brought up, and it is a tenet of my faith that the Constitution is divinely inspired of my most basic foundational beliefs. And so for me to do that because somebody just asked me to is foreign to my very being. I will not do it.